This is Social Leopards. I'm Bea.
And I'm Beth. A leopard is a solitary creature living in the jungle but often not seen or noticed. Are you a solitary creature trying to navigate the social jungle?
This show explores loneliness and the many ways forward. Welcome to Social Leopards.
Hello, everybody. Today we are here talking to Jasmin Schubert. So she is a business psychologist, a remote work coach, and an advocate for living with clarity and intention. On your website, going to address Jasmin before I introduce her fully, jasminschubert.com, and know that will be in our show notes as well, the link to her website. You mentioned that you have faced some tough decisions, unexpected turns, and moments of transformation. These are the things that brought you clarity and confidence that you now share with others, and that's part of your coaching business. So welcome to the show, Jasmin.
Thank you.
So can you share a little bit about your personal journey with us to get us started on this conversation?
Gladly. Yeah, I grew up in Germany, and we have this gap year where I decided to go to China to study. And up to that point, I always thought I'm going to work in the family business, which is in IT. And it took me a while to go through those processes of this is not what I want to do, even I thought this is what I would like to do. And then getting my distance with setting boundaries with my family while figuring out what are my values, what do I want in life, and then actually doing it. That's in brief my journey.
Awesome. Of course, our show is about loneliness and isolation. And can you talk to us a little bit about the struggles of clients who seek that remote work coaching? Because I have a full-time job and I work remotely, and I know it was quite the adjustment for me. It was forced upon me during COVID, and so I'm certain you probably run into a lot of people in same or similar situations. What is the most important part of that journey towards clarity for you personally?
In terms of a connection is to be aware of the connection that you can make. A lot of people, they hesitate to actively reach out to people because they think it's not going to be enough, just a quick message. I'm going to have to schedule like an hour call in order to stay connected or make new connections. And then they don't even try. And there are so many ways to reconnect with your family, with friends, to find new people online. You can also make a quick call and drink a coffee. Why not be in the same room? But that's underestimated often, so people struggle with that.
Oh, that's a great recommendation.
It is. And I think you had said that you want to help people create an authentic life. So what do you think, how do you do that?
So first yeah, it is. But yeah, first be aware of what you want. There are many people, they are being held back, and I include myself at this point, because they are afraid of the unknown. They think I'm not good enough to be able to do that. I don't have the skills and all the thoughts here. And I really believe that fear should not be holding you back. If it's fear mixed with excitement, that's a different story because it's an unknown world out there. But that should not be holding you back to create the life that you want with intention. Doesn't mean everyone has to have the remote work life, but if just because you think you don't have the skills for it, that shouldn't be the reason. So be aware of what you want is the first step to that. There's also the other way. People think they want the remote work life because everyone is living it, or people they see living it, they have such an amazing life, and then it's not for me, it doesn't align with what I truly want. So find the values, and then we go from there to create a life that aligns with those values.
And how do you help people figure out what they want? I think that's like $1 million question.
Yes.
What do you do?
It's a process. It involves a lot of questions. So as a coach, we are trained in asking the right questions and making sure help people reflect on what they actually want, and having those hard conversation, pushing them to the points where it's a bit uncomfortable, And then we have different tools we can try, like journaling is a great tool to learn over time. How do you feel? What happened today? How did you feel about that? How can you learn from that? And then it's a trial and error. You put yourself, work together on new ways and new situations you can put yourself in. We do that together, and then we come back and reflect. How did you actually like it? What didn't you like about it? Why could that be? There's a lot of questions are involved.
Yeah, those are good questions. Yeah.
That matches your superpower that we always ask people. What's your superpower? And you shared that you were genuinely curious and open-minded, so that probably lends a helping hand in the job that you do. What would you say would be the most important piece of advice that you would give someone who feels isolated as the result of working remotely and not having that water cooler chat or interaction in a cube between cube mates or office mates or whatever?
So one piece of advice I would give to them, don't overthink it. Reach out, ask for help, ask for connection. Send an email to that coworker asking, are you up for that lunch break call or a coffee break in the morning? To align. It can be work related, but it can also just be actively saying, I would love some small talk. And often you would be surprised how many people jump on that occasion and say, oh yes, I'm so glad you asked, I would love that. Don't overthink it.
I know I just changed roles, and I'm struggling a little bit with the connections I had in my prior role as I'm trying to develop relationships with my new teammates. And we did just that. We scheduled a coffee break once a week just to be able to reconnect. And the rule is we cannot talk about anything work related for that 15 minutes because we want to develop a non-work related friendship as opposed to colleagues that are always talking about work stuff. And one of those people that I did that with, we did run into that problem because we met for dinner and we did it as a double date. I don't even think I shared this with you. And we kept moving back to work topics because that's how we spent most of our days, was talking about work stuff. And so it's been very interesting as these little coffee dates had gone on, because we've learned so many little tiny things about one another because work is off limits for that 15 minutes. And it's really quite, and it's been very energizing. And somebody that I thought I knew really well, I'm learning all sorts of fun little factoids about.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I noticed that you do obviously a lot of solo global traveling. And so when I was younger, not that much younger, anyway, I would travel, but I would just travel in a structured conference environment. But it seems like you do it more freely. So tell me about that. How do you manage to do that and be okay with traveling by yourself?
I do actually both. I travel by myself, but I also have a partner for the main traveling. That helps a lot because at times I think there are areas where I wouldn't be as brave. I met a lot of female solo travelers and I admire them for the energy they bring and the trust in their skills to be traveling. But in general, I always do the research first. I check the areas, I look online what people say about it. I try to reach out to friends that've been there and ask them for recommendations, what experience did they make. And because I studied abroad, I have quite a lot of friends that live all over. So whenever I can, I also try to connect with them in advance to make sure I enjoy the time there. I did that mistake once, that I went to a place where I didn't know anyone and I had a hard time.
Yeah. And so how did you manage that? Like, how did you get over the hard time?
I try to reach out to communities. Facebook is a great way to meet people where you just put your picture and introduce yourself briefly and ask people if they would like to connect, if anything is going on. Often there are board game nights that I really quite enjoy.
Okay.
And it's easy not to talk about work because you're very invested in the game. And so I like to do that. Meetup is also a great app where you often even find co-working activities. So I hang on that. I went to those activities to make connection.
Oh, and I actually read, I don't remember which social media site, maybe Instagram. You had how to find friends while traveling little article post. And Eventbrite was another one of those websites that you suggested, and recently we actually added that as a resource on on our episode number 14 actually. Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad it's
So thank you for that.
Good.
Yeah. When I do a lot of in-person stuff, and during pandemic I did online, and I'm a pretty social person for in-person. And how do you not become lonely or isolated when you're doing just constant remote work? Like, how do you do that?
So I think what's really helping me is that I'm not a very extroverted person. I'm really fine even before to be by
Okay, that makes
myself
sense.
and work. But if I have those moments of feeling caged in my apartment or nothing's going on here, co-working spaces is the first place where I go. You can work by yourself, like in a coffee shop, just a bit more focused, and have this exchange, those water cooler breaks, even with strangers. The skill I developed is just being more open, more curious. You have this feeling of time is limited because you're never gonna stay on a place for too long. But you jump on the occasion when somebody is open to chatting, and I feel like it. I would go in, would ask the questions. You get a feeling of, okay, we're not gonna ask again how you're doing, where are you from, because that's really relevant. So you would ask, what are you doing here? What is your work? And then try to connect on a deeper level. So that's a really useful skill to develop.
Not asking, where are you from? Why would you not ask that? Do you think that could be like...
No, it's because it's in a way goal orientated. Where do you want to go from here? So my first impulse would be, I want to know what the person is doing right now. Of course, it's also interesting to know what is their background, where they're from, how many siblings do they have, like those kind of standard questions. But my first goal is, do we have the same values here? Do we have the same feelings? And is it worth to invest the time here, go out for dinner, lunch, and deepen that connection?
It's interesting. I know back in the day when I was younger, the first thing we would ask when we were out, so what do you do? And sometimes people would be upset about that question, and sometimes they'd be okay with it, so it would depend. But I like the way that you're taking that off the table and just trying to figure out if you have the same values and interests. It's a much better way, I think, of starting, don't you think?
Yeah, we've talked about asking open-ended questions and things of that nature, and just taking it outside the box, I think, is really a great suggestion for people.
Yeah.
Absolutely great words of wisdom. When I was trolling your website, I also saw that you address well-being during coaching work, and I wondered, being and self-care are two terms that get used a lot out in social media. What do you think is the biggest misunderstanding when people attempt to address their own personal well-being, and how do you coach them through that?
So I think one common theme here is that people assume they know what they need to be well. Like, again, they see on social media this person is lighting the candles and taking a long bath, so I need to be doing that in order to relax. And it may not work for you, and then you're so focused and so tensed and so stressed to de-stress that you overthink it, and you're wondering, why is it not working? I lit the candle, it smells nice. What's happening here? I think the mindset is the first thing that people should be addressing when they try to de-stress and take care of their well-being.
That's a good one. Yeah. Back to travel just for a minute, because I forgot to mention while you guys were talking about it, I have seen a few posts on your social media, and you made Albania look pretty awesome, let me say. And how do you pick the places that you travel to, and do you purposefully pick places that most people wouldn't? What's your motivation for when you choose a place to go to?
Different motivations. So Albania we chose because my partner is from Italy, and there is a lot of prejudices going on between Italy and Albania, and he wanted to fight that. And he wanted to go and see for himself and not trust the stories of his childhood of how dangerous everything is. So we did our research again. We chose Saranda first, which is a bit more of a tourist area, and went there to feel the country by ourselves. For me, it's more important that it's also close to nature. So we like to go hiking a lot or go for walks, so that's relevant. And this is why we choose Albania, which combined those two things. It was really lovely. We had an amazing time. People are very friendly. There's a bit of harmony there between the religions as well. And yeah, it was a great start for us to go there. And from there, we went then to bigger cities. We went to the capital, Tirana. That was also very lovely. And yeah, at times we also chose places because I've been there or my partner has been there and we want to show the other one. So KL right now is one of those places.
Yeah. Oh.
That's awesome. Yeah. You've definitely gone to a lot of interesting places, and I've enjoyed some of those photos that I've seen. I'll have to make sure that I gathered your social media since I've been talking about it a lot. Some of our listeners may want to check it out as well. Yeah. So I'll make sure I get that in addition. Or is your social media attached to your website?
Because
I know I have your website.
I have two social medias. Yeah, I think the private one is not attached to that, even though I also share that. But there is an interconnection with them going on. So also on my work one, which is connected to my website, I do share pictures.
Okay. All right. So if somebody decided that they wanted to have coaching from you, can you explain a little bit about what they might expect, especially if they are somebody who is experiencing a little bit of that feelings of loneliness or social isolation? Just to walk us through what the process is and the benefit of interacting with a coach.
So a coach in general can help you find those blocks, those limiting beliefs, and those blind spots that are holding you back. So I like to say coaching or getting a coach is taking a shortcut. You get to have a partner that levels with you. We're not in a different area here, so I'm not above you. I'm not going to give you advice. I'm not going to give you the golden ticket on this is how you do it. But what I can do is helping you more aware of where are you stuck. Even if you don't know it yourself yet, by talking about this, I can help you with that. And the process for that is we always have one session first where we get to know each other to see if we have the good chemistry, if we understand each other, have the same expectations. And then we go from there. Again, we start with the values. And I use the energy leadership system from IPAC, which is an institute for coaching. And we have a holistic approach to help you figure out on what energy, where you're coming from. Do you have this victim mindset that you constantly feel stuck because everything is just happening to me? I don't understand. I have no control over my life. And we try to work with that, figure that out, and then give you a bit of the tools, the guidelines, the direction to what you want and how you can achieve that. So we develop those action steps together, and that could look different for anyone else.
How do you figure out if somebody's a good fit for you? How do you weed that out?
For the first impression, the chemistry, how do we get along here? Do they really come because they want change, or do you have to put the work? If you just come and you are, here I am, now fix me, that's most likely not gonna work. You have to want it. You have to feel this is a good time for you and you want the change and you are willing to work for that. It's like going to therapy. If somebody forcing you to go to therapy, you're gonna have a hard time there.
Truth.
How do you yourself disconnect yourself from work, since it seems like you would always be working because you're remote? So what do you do to disconnect?
I have some rituals. In the morning, I take a break as well to do my workout. That's really important to me, to not only be constantly working. And I have a routine in the evenings. Often it's a virtual commute, which means I just go for a walk after work. so I can disconnect because I don't have the location change, a physical change. I don't have an office often. I have one designated spot where my laptop is standing when I'm working. It doesn't matter where I am, so that there I work. And when I'm on the sofa or wherever, I can use the computer, yes, but I'm not going to use it for work. That helps my mind to make the difference and plug off. So boundaries is really important here, to not keep constantly working, because it can be tempting and it can sneak up on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me in a prior life. I have let that go, but yes, I used to sit in my favorite chair with my laptop, and I found that I was constantly just working. And I think I was becoming almost addicted to just the work. Like I felt like I wasn't being productive unless I was working. And it took a lot to let that go and to give myself that space, but I finally did it, and man, did that make a difference. It was like night and day. Yeah. So again, good advice. Listen,
Awesome advice.
Jasmine's full of really great guidance for a lot of us.
Thank you.
Do you have another question?
No, it's just what interesting how do you deal with cultural differences because you travel so much. How do you deal with that with your work or otherwise?
Beginning, it's a bit hard. It helped me that I did study in China, where I also had a lot of friends from Germany or other Western countries. But at the beginning, it can be a culture shock. It's not called a culture shock for nothing, because people do things differently. And at the beginning, especially, I would get angry, actually, because people would constantly go into my comfort zone. I was impatient because people wouldn't understand me, even though I tried so hard to speak English, Chinese, and all the languages, but it didn't work. And what helped me is just developing that curiosity. If you look at somebody doing something, you can get angry, maybe saying, why are they doing it like this? This is not efficient. This is frustrating the way they're doing it. And your mindset, and you reshape that, and instead you ask, oh, this is interesting. Why are they doing it like this? What can I learn from this? Oh, maybe I can try this in a different way. Took a lot of time and a lot of adaptability, but yeah, when you master that, it makes life so much easier.
I know, it's so interesting. I think we take it for granted that we think, oh, we're all human and we're going to do everything the same way, but we don't. And even when years ago, I think it was like when my parents are from Ukraine, my family is from Ukraine, and in 1991, when Ukraine became free, some of my other family wanted to come to the United States, and I thought, oh my gosh, we're going to have this instant connection because I speak the language and all this stuff. And we were so different because, like you said, the things that they did, the way they did them, I didn't understand it. It took me a long time to figure it out. Yeah. So it's fascinating.
Isn't it interesting that even you think you have a similar culture, there are still so many tiny nuances?
Yeah, the thing that was funny, so they were living during the communist time, and then things changed, but they had very limited supplies like food and opportunities. So like when they came to the United States, the first week they spent every day at the grocery store. And I was asking them, like, why are you doing this? Oh, we've never had so many options for food. But, oh my gosh, we take it for granted because we have so much, right? Yes, it was interesting, but very different, yeah.
Yeah. Our culture shapes us, and even our parents' culture shapes us so much, and we don't realize it. And what we grew up thinking was our norm, as we age, we learn that there are so many other things out there.
Yeah.
We have a friend whose parents were very much older when they had her. She was a very late in life child, and they actually were from the Depression, and they grew up in a time when resources were very limited, so they were very frugal as they raised her. And she still, to this day, is in her early 60s, and she still is very much drawn to saving things, recycling things, reusing things. She wears a lot of her boys' old sweatshirts and t-shirts because they're in perfectly good shape.
Yes,
and so
yeah.
instead of buying herself something girly, she's just wearing the sports t-shirt or the sweat jacket because it's there. And so it's just really interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know what that has to do with.
But no, it's the same kind
Anything,
of thing.
but,
Like it's just
yeah.
you're familiar with that, so that's what you do.
Yes. Yeah.
But I like the fact that you have this whole adaptability piece about yourself, that you're adapting and learning. It's easier said than done. Like we don't want to come out of our comfort zone, but we have to really expand our horizons.
Exactly.
What would you say is the most common reason that people come to you? Or is it all over the place, or is there a common thread?
The reason is often the same in terms of they're stuck somewhere in their remote work career. They're stuck at the beginning because they don't know where to start. They're overwhelmed with all the information they're getting. Or they're stuck in the middle because they have the remote work job, but they would advance their career and there are not so many options, they think. They think they cannot get a better promotion position. Those are the two common areas where I connect with people. And often it comes back or comes down to the same limiting beliefs. I'm not good enough. I can't do this. I don't have the skills. So that's an interesting common factor. It doesn't matter where in your remote work life cycle you are.
We talk a lot about self-confidence and authenticity and how that can be very transforming. Is there anything that you can share, like a nugget of wisdom about the importance or benefit of living your most authentic life?
Because you would be surprised how accepting the people around you are. I feel most of the time, and this was also for me, I was really scared of doing this, and I had all those thoughts. What would my family think if I start traveling around? People are gonna think I'm lazy if I start working remotely, or that I'm just in pajamas all day and not being productive. And when I did that, yeah, of course there were some voices that said, what are you doing, working remotely? How's that even gonna work? But the majority was really curious. They were really happy for me. They were excited. They came to reach out and they were so supportive when I did come to a point where I struggled or I reached out and they said, I'm lonely over here, I miss you. There was no, well, I told you you're gonna be lonely. There was, yeah, let's jump on a call. Let's have this video conversation. You can record me an audiobook on WhatsApp and I'm gonna listen to it. So whenever you want, feel free to reach out. So when you do that, not only do you for yourself, you're true to yourself, you're doing what you really want to do, you're brave to make mistakes, because this is a trial and error. You may gonna figure out this is not exactly what I wanted, but this is how you go to where you really want it. And people are just generally kind and supportive.
That's really good. Thank you for that.
Thank you
All
for the
right.
question.
Any other questions that you can think of?
I can't know. Like
Okay.
you.
All right. Any final parting words that you want to share with the audience, or if you want to give a final plug? I don't think we've actually said your website out loud on video, so feel free to give yourself a promo.
I hope I could inspire you. Doesn't matter if you are up for coaching or not. I hope you can find some wisdom and go get that information that you're missing, that missing piece. You can find me on jasminschubert.com, on my website where you can reach out to me, and it's connected also to my Facebook, LinkedIn, and my Instagram, Remote Work Coach, where I share more specific, some tips about how to fight overwhelm when you are working remotely.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you again
Thank you for
for taking
having
the
me.
time to meet with us. It's a pleasure.
All right. This wraps up today's episode, and we will see you next week. Hey, social leopards. Don't slink back into the jungle quite yet. We have 2 important messages to share. First, remember to like this episode, drop us a comment, and if you haven't done it yet, follow this show or subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can reach us on social media. You can also email share@socialleopards.com to contact us privately. All links are in the show notes. We love and appreciate hearing from those who listen to the show.
Second, we want you to know that this show is not intended to be a replacement for professional therapy. If you are struggling or if you need to interact with another person, check out the show notes for resources. Thanks for listening.